Scenarist Yulia Yakovenka, Kilki Symvoliv, 39931, Nazwa. She told me, I'm working late. An hour later, her coworker accidentally posted a group photo with preview. She told me, I'm working late. An hour later, her coworker accidentally posted a group photo with her sitting on his lap. I saved it quietly, then forwarded it to HR that evening. Story. If my life were a sitcom, tonight's episode would be called My Fiancé's Overtime, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Screenshot. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Ryan Kessler, and I'm 34 years old. I fix computers for a living at Midwest Tech Solutions, which sounds way more impressive than it actually is. Most days, I'm the guy who shows up at your cubicle to explain why turning it off and on again actually works. The pay is decent, the hours are predictable, and until 3 months ago, I thought my life was pretty good. That was before I discovered my fiancée Jenna was working overtime in ways that had nothing to do with her job description. Jenna Markham was everything I thought I wanted. 32, ambitious, with the kind of smile that could sell ice to penguins. She works as a project manager at Hartwell & Associates downtown, one of those glass tower companies that does something vaguely important with other people's money. We met 2 years ago at a coffee shop near my office. She was complaining loudly into her phone about incompetent vendors, and I made a joke about how at least her vendors weren't asking her to fix their Wi-Fi passwords. She laughed. 6 months later, we were engaged. The first sign something was wrong came in February. Jenna started staying late at the office more often. Big project, she'd say, pecking me on the cheek as she grabbed her purse. Chase wants the whole team to really push through this quarter. Chase Dorman, 39 years old, Jenna's boss, and the kind of guy who probably practiced his handshake in the mirror. I'd met him exactly once, at the company Christmas party. He drove a silver BMW, wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent, and had the kind of confident smile that said he'd never been told no in his entire life. He was also married to a woman named Sabrina, who looked like she could cut glass with her cheekbones. He's really demanding, Jenna would say after another late night. But he's teaching me so much about client relations. I bet he was. The second sign was the phone calls. Jenna had always been chatty, but these conversations were different, quieter. She'd step out onto the balcony of her downtown apartment, speaking in hushed tones that carried just enough for me to catch fragments. No, he doesn't suspect anything. We just have to be careful until after the Morrison deal. Your wife doesn't check your schedule that closely, does she? When I asked about it, she'd wave me off. Work drama. You know how it is. Except I didn't know how it was, because my work drama usually involved someone forgetting their password, not whispered phone calls about suspicious spouses. The third sign was her friends. Jenna had always been social, but her work friends, Lexi and Maya, started acting weird around me. They'd exchange glances when I walked into a room, then burst into giggles the moment I left. At Jenna's birthday dinner last month, I overheard Lexi whispering to Maya about after-hours performance reviews and something about Chase's big office. When I asked Jenna about it later, she just shrugged. They're being silly. You know how office gossip is. But the final sign, the one that turned my suspicions into certainty, came last Tuesday night. I was at Jenna's apartment, sprawled on her couch while she took a shower. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a text from someone named C, with a heart emoji. Can't wait for our weekend retreat, just the two of us this time. I stared at that message for a long moment. Jenna had told me she was going to a team-building weekend in Milwaukee. Just the girls, she'd said. You'd be bored out of your mind. Apparently, the girls included someone named C with a heart emoji. And that's when I started paying closer attention. Real attention. I didn't hire a private investigator or install spyware on her phone. I'm not that guy. But I am an IT specialist, which means I notice things about technology that other people miss. Like the fact that Jenna had started using incognito mode on her browser, or that she'd changed her social media privacy settings to exclude me from seeing posts where she was tagged. But she couldn't control what other people posted. Last Friday night, while Jenna was supposedly working late again, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A coworker from Hartwell & Associates had posted a group photo from what looked like an office party. The caption read, "Working hard or hardly working? #Team Hartwell #Friday night grind." Wow. There, in the background, sitting on Chase Dorman's lap with her arms around his neck, was my fiancée. She was wearing the same dress she'd left the house in that morning. The same dress she'd told me was professional attire for a client presentation. I screenshot the photo before the poster could delete it. Then I sat there on my couch, staring at the evidence of my fiancé's betrayal, and started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because after months of gaslighting and you're being paranoid and it's just work, I finally had proof that I wasn't crazy. My best friend Nate called while I was still staring at the photo. "Hey man, want to grab a beer? Sarah's working late and I'm bored." Nate Rodriguez. No, wait, that name's off limits. Nate Wilson. He's been my best friend since high school, works as a mechanic at Thompson's Auto, and has the kind of straightforward honesty that cuts through bullshit like a hot knife through butter. And actually, I said, I think I need to show you something. 20 minutes later, Nate was sitting on my couch, looking at the screenshot on my phone. Holy shit, Ryan. I'm sorry, man. Don't be sorry, I said. Be helpful. What would you do? Nate was quiet for a long moment, then he grinned. I'd make sure everyone at her office saw this photo. Accidentally, of course. Accidentally? You know, forward it to HR with a concerned note about inappropriate workplace behavior. Let them handle the rest. I looked at the photo again. Jenna, draped over her married boss like a cheap suit, both of them looking very comfortable with the arrangement. You know what? I said. I think that's a great idea. That night, I composed an email to the HR department at Hartwell & Associates. I kept it professional, concerned, and completely devastating. To whom it may concern. I recently became aware of this photo circulating on social media, showing what appears to be inappropriate conduct between a manager and subordinate at your company. As someone who cares about workplace professionalism, I thought you should be aware. The individuals appear to be Chase Dorman and Jenna Markham. I hope you'll handle this matter with appropriate discretion. I attached the screenshot and hit send. Then I sat back and waited for the fireworks to begin. The fireworks started Monday morning at 8:47 a.m. I know the exact time because that's when my phone rang. Jenna's name flashed on the screen, but when I answered, the voice that came through was pure fury. What the hell did you do? Good morning to you too, sweetheart. How's work going? Don't you dare play dumb with me, Ryan. I know it was you. I was sitting in my office at Midwest Tech, eating a gas station donut and watching my coworker Sam troubleshoot a printer that had apparently achieved sentience and decided to reject all forms of communication. It was shaping up to be a perfectly ordinary Monday, until Jenna's call. I'm afraid you'll have to be more specific, I said. Are you talking about the time I put an empty milk carton back in the fridge? Or the photo, you bastard, the Instagram photo. You sent it to HR. I took a sip of coffee. Did I? Huh, my memory's a bit fuzzy. Maybe you could refresh it for me. What photo was that again? The sound that came through the phone was somewhere between a shriek and a growl. You know exactly what photo. The one from Friday night. Oh, that photo. The one where you're sitting on your married boss's lap while you're supposed to be working late. That photo. Silence. Then, it's not what it looks like. Really, because it looks like you're cheating on me with Chase Dorman. But hey, maybe I'm just bad at interpreting visual evidence. I only work in IT. Ryan, listen to me. No, Jenna, you listen to me. I spent 3 months thinking I was going crazy. 3 months of you telling me I was paranoid and jealous and imagining things. 3 months of it's just work and you don't understand the corporate world. Well, guess what? I understand it just fine now. She was crying. Actually crying. 6 months ago, that would have broken my heart. Today, it just sounded like static. You don't understand, she said. They called me and Chase into HR this morning. Miss Bergen was furious. She's talking about suspension, maybe even termination. You could ruin my career. Correction. Tokens. You ruined your career. I just documented it. This isn't over, Ryan. You can't just... I hung up. Sam looked over from the printer. Everything okay, man? Never better, I said. How's our mechanical friend doing? I think it's plotting against us. Want to grab lunch later? You look like you could use a beer. It's not even 9 a.m. Your point? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Nate. Dude, check Facebook, now. I opened the app and nearly choked on my coffee. Someone, and I had a pretty good idea who, had shared the screenshot to a private group called Hartwell & Associates Employee Network. The post had 37 comments and counting. The comments were brutal. OMG, is that Jenna from marketing? I knew something was going on between them. Isn't Chase married? His wife is going to lose her mind. This explains so much about the promotion rumors. Professional my ass. More like horizontal advancement. I scrolled through the comments, feeling a warm glow of satisfaction. Then I saw one that made me sit up straight. My friend works in HR. Apparently someone sent this directly to Miss Bergen this morning. Both Chase and Jenna are in deep shit. The friend who'd posted the screenshot had tagged several other Hartwell employees, and they were sharing it to their own networks. Within hours, half the company would see it. By tomorrow, it would probably reach Chase's wife. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Is this Ryan Kessler? Depends who's asking. This is Miss Bergen from Hartwell and Associates HR department. I believe you sent us some information this morning regarding 2 of our employees. My stomach dropped. Is there a problem? On the contrary, Mr. Kessler. I wanted to thank you. We've been monitoring some concerning behavior between Mr. Dorman and Miss Markham for several weeks, but we lacked concrete evidence. Your photo provided exactly what we needed to take action. What kind of action? I'm not at liberty to discuss personnel matters in detail, but I can tell you that both employees have been suspended pending a full investigation. If you have any additional information that might be relevant, we'd appreciate your cooperation. Additional information. I thought about the text messages I'd glimpsed, the whispered phone calls, the weekend team-building trips. Actually, I said, there might be a few other things you should know. That afternoon, I met Nate at Murphy's Bar, a dive near his auto shop that served beer in mason jars and didn't judge you for drinking before 5 p.m. I was halfway through my second beer when Jenna walked in. She looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her makeup was smudged, and she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of her usual business attire. She spotted me immediately and marched over to our table. We need to talk, she said. Nate started to get up. I'll give you guys some privacy. Sit down, Nate, I said. Jenna was just leaving. Like hell I was. She pulled out the empty chair across from me and sat down hard. You want to destroy my life? Fine. But you're going to look me in the eye while you do it. The bar had gone quiet. Murphy's wasn't the kind of place where people had dramatic confrontations. It was the kind of place where people came to forget about dramatic confrontations. I didn't destroy your life, Jenna. You did that all by yourself. By falling in love? By finding someone who actually appreciates me? By cheating on your fiancé with your married boss? There's a difference. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You want to know the truth, Ryan? Fine. Here's the truth. Chase and I have been together for 4 months. 4 months of the best relationship I've ever had. He understands me. He challenges me. He makes me feel like I'm worth something. And I didn't? You made me feel safe. That's not the same thing. The words hit harder than I'd expected. So this is my fault? For not being exciting enough? This is your fault for being petty and vindictive. Do you have any idea what you've done? Chase is probably going to lose his job. His wife is talking about divorce. And me? I'll be lucky if I can get a job managing a McDonald's after this. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to play office romance. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a hiss. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won. But this isn't over, Ryan. Chase has friends, connections. We're going to fight this. Good luck with that. She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair backward. You know what your problem is? You're small. You've always been small, and you can't stand the idea that I found something bigger. Then she was gone, leaving behind the lingering scent of her perfume and the attention of every person in the bar. Nate whistled low. Damn, man, she's really something. Yeah, I said, something. But as I watched her storm out of Murphy's Bar, I realized something important. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was just getting started. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Sabrina Dorman, Chase's wife. We need to talk. Sabrina Dorman looked exactly like the kind of woman who could destroy a man's life with a single phone call. She was sitting in the back booth of a coffee shop downtown, wearing a black business suit that probably cost more than my car. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and when she looked up from her phone to acknowledge my arrival, her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Mr. Kessler, thank you for meeting me. I slid into the booth across from her. How did you get my number? I have my ways. She closed her phone and folded her hands on the table. I assume you know why I wanted to speak with you. Your husband is sleeping with my fiancé, former fiancé. Among other things, yes. She signaled the waitress for coffee. Tell me, what do you know about Chase's business dealings? Nothing, should I? Sabrina's smile got sharper. Chase likes to think he's clever. He's been skimming money from client accounts for months, moving it through shell companies, building himself a little nest egg. I've been documenting everything. The waitress brought coffee. I waited until she was gone before responding. Why are you telling me this? Because Chase and your former fiancé aren't just having an affair. They're planning to run away together. To Costa Rica specifically, where extradition is complicated, and the money Chase has been stealing will go much further. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How much money? Nearly $200,000. All of it traceable back to client accounts at Hartwell and Associates. She sipped her coffee delicately. Of course, when it all comes out, Jenna will be implicated as well. She's been helping him move the funds. Jesus. Indeed. Now, I could simply turn this information over to the authorities and let them handle it. Chase would go to prison, Jenna would follow, and I'd get a very satisfying divorce settlement. She leaned forward slightly. But I think we can do better than that. What do you mean? I mean we can destroy them completely. Professionally, personally, socially. We can make sure they lose everything before they ever see the inside of a courtroom. I studied her face. Sabrina Dorman was beautiful in the way that expensive things are beautiful. Cold, perfect, and absolutely ruthless. What did you have in mind? Chase is attending the Hartwell and Associates annual gala this Saturday. It's a big event. All the major clients, the board of directors, local media. He's supposed to give a presentation about the company's success this quarter. The quarter where he was stealing money. Exactly. Now, imagine if someone were to present evidence of his theft at that very public event, in front of everyone who matters in this city's business community. Someone like you? Someone like us. She pulled a tablet out of her purse and slid it across the table. I have bank records, email correspondence, transaction logs, everything needed to prove Chase's embezzlement. But I also have something else. I looked at the screen. It was a series of text messages between Chase and Jenna. But these weren't love notes. They were detailed plans for transferring money, booking flights, and disappearing. They're planning to leave next week, Sabrina continued. Right after the gala. Chase thinks he's been so careful, but he's been texting about it constantly. Your former fiancé is quite the planner. I scrolled through the messages, feeling sick. Jenna had been planning this for months. While she was sleeping in my bed, eating dinner at my table, wearing the engagement ring I'd saved for 6 months to buy, she was plotting to steal money and disappear with her boss. Why do you need me? I asked. You could expose this yourself. Because I'm the scorned wife. Everyone will assume I'm acting out of spite. But you're the innocent victim who discovered the affair and started digging deeper. You're the whistleblower who uncovered a major embezzlement scheme. You're the hero. I handed the tablet back to her. What's the plan? Saturday night, during Chase's presentation, you stand up and ask some very pointed questions about the company's financial practices. I'll be recording everything. When Chase tries to deflect, you present the evidence, in front of everyone. And then we watch their world burn. We spent the next hour going over details. Sabrina had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. She knew exactly when Chase would be presenting, where the media would be positioned, which clients would be in attendance. She'd thought of everything. There's one more thing, she said as we were getting ready to leave. Your former fiancé has been telling people that you're stalking her. She's planning to file a restraining order. What? She and Chase cooked up the story together. They think if they can make you look unstable, it will discredit anything you might say about them. Sabrina's smile was predatory. They're planning to have you served with papers on Friday, right before the gala. Can they do that? They can try, but it won't matter. By Saturday night, everyone will know who the real criminals are. That evening, I called Nate and filled him in on everything. He listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. So let me get this straight, he said when I finished. Your ex is not only cheating on you, she's also planning to steal a bunch of money and run away to Costa Rica with her boss. That's the summary, yes. And his wife wants you to help her destroy them both at some fancy party. The annual gala, yes. Ryan, man, this is crazy. Like, movie-level crazy. I know. Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, once you go public with this stuff, there's no taking it back. I thought about Jenna sitting on Chase's lap in that photo. I thought about months of gaslighting and lies. I thought about her calling me small in Murphy's bar. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Okay then. What do you need me to do? Just be there Saturday night, in case things get ugly. Things are already ugly, man. Saturday night, they're just going to get public. Friday morning, just as Sabrina had predicted, a process server showed up at my office. The restraining order petition was a work of fiction, claiming I'd been harassing Jenna, following her, and making threats. It was all lies, but it was convincing lies. I called Sabrina immediately. "Don't worry about it," she said. "By tomorrow night, no one will remember a restraining order. They'll only remember the embezzlement. What if this backfires? What if people believe their version?" "Ryan," she said, and for the first time, her voice was almost gentle. "Trust me. I've been married to Chase for 8 years. I know exactly how to destroy him." Saturday evening, I put on my best suit and drove downtown to the Hartwell and Associates Gala. It was being held at the Grand Ballroom of the Marriott, and the parking lot was full of expensive cars. I felt underdressed and out of place, but I reminded myself why I was there. Inside, the ballroom was decorated with white flowers and gold accents. Men in tuxedos and women in evening gowns mingled around cocktail tables, drinking champagne and making small talk. I spotted Jenna almost immediately. She was wearing a red dress that I'd never seen before, standing next to Chase near the bar. They looked like the perfect couple. Sabrina appeared at my elbow. "Ready?" I looked around the room. Local business leaders, media representatives, Hartwell employees, and their families. Everyone who mattered in the city's professional community. "Let's do this," I said. Chase Dorman stepped up to the podium at exactly 8:30 p.m., just as Sabrina had predicted. He looked confident and relaxed in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, flashing that practiced smile as he adjusted the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Hartwell and Associates' annual celebration." I was sitting at a table near the back of the ballroom, nursing a glass of wine and watching the crowd. Jenna was at the head table with the other senior staff, looking radiant in her red dress. She hadn't seen me yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. "This has been an exceptional year for our company," Chase continued. "We've exceeded our growth targets, expanded our client base, and increased profitability by 18%. Sabrina was sitting 3 tables away, her phone positioned to record everything. She caught my eye and nodded slightly. "Our success is built on trust," Chase said, gesturing broadly. "Trust between our company and our clients. Trust between our employees and management. Trust in our commitment to ethical business practices." That was my cue. I stood up slowly, making sure my voice would carry across the room. "Mr. Dorman, I have a question about those ethical business practices." The room went quiet. Chase's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "I'm sorry, I don't believe you're on tonight's program for questions. My name is Ryan Kessler. I'm was engaged, to one of your employees, Jenna Markham." I gestured toward the head table, where Jenna had gone pale. "I've recently become aware of some concerning financial irregularities at your company." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Chase's knuckles were white where he gripped the podium. "Sir, this is neither the time nor the place for—" "Actually, I think this is exactly the time and place." I pulled out my phone and held up the screen. "I have documentation showing systematic theft from client accounts. Nearly $200,000 moved through shell companies over the past 6 months." The murmurs became a buzz. I saw several people pulling out their own phones, either to record or to call someone. At the head table, Jenna was shaking her head frantically, but Chase held up a hand to silence her. "That's a very serious accusation," he said, his voice tight. "I hope you have evidence to support such claims." "I do." I looked directly at him. "Bank records showing transfers from client accounts to companies that don't exist. Email correspondence between you and Miss Markham planning the theft. Text messages discussing your planned escape to Costa Rica." That last part hit like a bomb. The buzz became a roar. Chase stepped back from the podium as if I'd slapped him. That's completely fabricated," he stammered. "This man is clearly unstable. In fact, Miss Markham has filed for a restraining order because of his harassment." "The restraining order that was filed yesterday?" I interrupted. "Right after you realized I was getting close to the truth? How convenient." Sabrina stood up from her table. "If I may add something to this discussion," Chase saw his wife and went white. "Sabrina, what are you doing here?" "Supporting the truth, darling." She walked calmly to the front of the room, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sabrina Dorman, Chase's wife, and I can confirm that everything Mr. Kessler has said is absolutely accurate." The room erupted. People were standing, talking, pointing. I saw several members of the media pushing toward the front, cameras and recording devices ready. Jenna suddenly stood up from the head table. This is insane. Ryan, you're making a fool of yourself. All eyes turned to her. In her red dress under the ballroom lights, she looked beautiful and desperate and completely guilty. Am I? I called back. Then explain the text messages. Explain the bank transfers. Explain the plane tickets to San Jose that you booked for next Tuesday. Her mouth opened and closed without sound. At the podium, Chase was frantically trying to regain control. Everyone, please, let's not let personal drama overshadow. Personal drama? Sabrina's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Chase, you've been stealing from your clients for months. You've been having an affair with a subordinate. And you've been planning to flee the country with stolen money. Which part of that is personal drama? She pulled out her tablet and connected it to the room's projection system. Suddenly, the screens around the ballroom were filled with bank records, email threads, and text message conversations. The evidence was overwhelming. Transfer after transfer, each one carefully documented. Emails between Chase and Jenna discussing moving the funds and covering our tracks. Text messages planning their escape, complete with flight numbers and hotel reservations. Chase made one last desperate play. Sabrina, you're my wife. How can you do this to me? She looked at him with the kind of cold fury that could freeze blood. How can I do this to you? Chase, you've been cheating on me and stealing money. The question isn't how I can do this to you. The question is how you could do this to everyone in this room who trusted you. That's when Jenna snapped. Enough, she screamed, her voice echoing off the ballroom walls. Ryan, you pathetic little man, you couldn't handle that I found someone better than you, so you're trying to destroy us both. Rührting Dunkelheit and Havud. Every phone camera in the place was pointed at her now. Someone better? I said quietly. You mean someone who would help you steal money and run away? Someone who would throw away his marriage and his career for a few months of sneaking around? That's better? At least he has ambition. At least he wants something more than fixing computers and watching Netflix every night. At least I'm not a thief. She started toward me, her face twisted with rage. But hotel security was already moving. Two large men in suits intercepted her before she could cross the room. Ma'am, we're going to need you to calm down, one of them said. Don't touch me. Do you know who I am? You're someone who's about to be escorted out of this building, the security guard replied. As they led Jenna toward the exit, she turned back one more time. This isn't over, Ryan. Chase has lawyers. We'll fight this. But Chase wasn't fighting anything. He was standing behind the podium, staring at the evidence projected on the screens around the room, looking like a man who'd just realized his house was on fire and he was standing in the middle of it. Mr. Dorman, someone called from the crowd. Would you care to respond to these allegations? Chase looked out at the sea of faces, clients, colleagues, media, his wife, all waiting for an answer. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I need to call my attorney. That's when the flash of camera bulbs really started. By the time hotel security escorted Chase out of the ballroom, there were dozens of photos and videos circulating online. The story was already spreading across social media. Local executive exposed for embezzlement at company gala. I found myself surrounded by reporters asking questions, but Sabrina appeared at my side and guided me toward a quieter corner of the room. How do you feel? She asked. I thought about it for a moment. 3 hours ago, I'd been a guy whose fiancée had cheated on him. Now I was the whistleblower who'd exposed a major embezzlement scheme at one of the city's most prominent companies. Honestly, I said, I feel like I could use a drink. Sabrina laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her. I think we both could. As we walked toward the bar, I saw Nate pushing through the crowd toward us, grinning from ear to ear. Ryan, holy shit, man, that was incredible. Did you see Chase's face when his wife started talking? I thought he was going to pass out. It's not over yet, I said. They'll probably try to claim the evidence was fabricated or something. Let them try, Sabrina said, accepting a glass of champagne from the bartender. I've been documenting Chase's activities for months. Everything I have is admissible in court. What happens now? Now we wait for the police to arrest them. The FBI will probably get involved because of the interstate banking fraud. Chase and Jenna will be charged, tried, and most likely convicted. She raised her glass. To justice. We clinked glasses, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Jenna had been right about one thing. Chase did have lawyers, and people like him didn't go down without a fight. I was about to find out just how dirty that fight could get. Monday morning brought two pieces of news that changed everything. The first came via a phone call from Detective Martinez with the Financial Crimes Unit. Chase and Jenna had been arrested Sunday night trying to board a flight to Miami. They'd apparently decided to accelerate their escape plan after Saturday's disaster, but airport security had been alerted and they were taken into custody at the gate. They're both in jail pending arraignment, Martinez told me. The evidence you and Mrs. Dorman provided was solid gold. The DA thinks this is going to be a slam dunk. The second piece of news came from Nate, who called me 20 minutes later, laughing so hard he could barely speak. Dude, you have to see this. Check Channel 7's website, now. I pulled up the news site and immediately saw the headline. Embezzlement suspects caught with fake passports and stolen cash. The accompanying photo showed Chase and Jenna in handcuffs, being led through the airport by federal agents. Chase looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Jenna was crying, her makeup streaked, her hair disheveled. It was a far cry from the confident woman in the red dress who'd screamed at me Saturday night. But the real kicker was the sidebar story. Whistleblower's ex-fiancé caught an embezzlement scheme, a modern betrayal. The article painted me as the heroic victim who'd uncovered a major financial crime after discovering his fiancé's affair. It mentioned my courage in speaking truth to power and my dedication to justice despite personal cost. I was being hailed as a local hero. My phone started ringing almost immediately. Local news stations wanting interviews, a podcast producer interested in my story, even a literary agent who thought my experience might make a good book. For the first time in months, I felt like I was winning. That feeling lasted exactly 3 days. Wednesday evening, I was at home watching the news coverage of Chase and Jenna's arraignment when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find a man in an expensive suit holding a briefcase. Ryan Kessler? I'm David Hammond, attorney for Chase Dorman and Jenna Markham. I'd like to discuss a settlement offer. A settlement for what? May I come in? Against my better judgment, I let him into my living room. Hammond was the kind of lawyer who probably charged more per hour than I made in a week. He sat down on my couch like he owned it. My clients are prepared to make you a very generous offer, he said, opening his briefcase. $500,000 in exchange for your agreement to recant your statements about the alleged embezzlement. I stared at him. You want me to lie? I want you to acknowledge that you may have been mistaken about certain financial transactions, that in your emotional state following